Hi, welcome to the Pinoy RN, a podcast that provides insight into a variety of subjects relevant to Pinoy nurses. Here's your host, Jerome Babate.
San Pedro University has many journals, and each of the journals focuses on a specific field of discipline. For the Journal of Health and Caring Sciences, the role is to serve as an avenue for nursing researchers in the Philippines and around the world who wants to publish their researchers, especially if it explores contemporary and emerging topics on the intricacies, depth, and application of health and caring sciences. A journal typically consists of an editorial team. In our case, we have the editor-in-chief, the managing editor, the copy editor, the layout editor, the statistical editor, and the secretariat. The editor-in-chief is the head of the editorial team. The manuscript editor is responsible for copy editing of the submission. The layout editor is the one responsible for the creation of the galley proof, while the statistical editor is the one responsible for checking the appropriateness of the statistical tools utilized in the submission, while the secretariat pre-screens the submission if it conforms to the citation and formatting style of the journal. For the managing editor, it is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the journal. He is also responsible for communicating with authors regarding the status of their submission and assigning a member of the editorial review board to review the submissions. To put it simply, the managing editor is the body that supervises the operation of the journal. On a typical day, I always check the number of downloads per article. This is very important for us, especially as a newly established journal. We were established last April 2018 and launched our first issue last June 2019. Article metrics are very essential, especially in applying for indexing in different scientific databases, as that is one of the measurements in checking the impact of the journal. I also check my emails, especially notifications about the journal, and post relevant information on the website and our Facebook page. The Journal of Health and Caring Sciences uses the Open Journal System, or more commonly known as OJS, for manuscript submission. Before we migrated to online submission, we usually process the manuscript through email to communicate with the authors and the journal reviewers. When we migrated to online submission using OJS, the processing of manuscripts became convenient for us. Why? Because once the author registered for a username or password on the journal's website, they can now upload their submission given that they conform to the guidelines to authors set in the journal. Once they submitted the manuscript, a notification will be sent to them acknowledging their submission, and the secretariat will also be notified of the submission. Then the secretariat will pre-screen the submission if it conforms to the formatting and citation style of the journal. If no, it will be sent back to authors for revision. And if yes, it will be forwarded to the managing editor, where the managing editor will check the quality of the submission and if it conforms to the aims and scope of the journal. If no, it will be rejected. And if yes, it will be forwarded to two members of the editorial review board for review. Then the reviewers will be notified of the review and will be given ample time to accept the review or not. 1 week will be given to them to decide if they decide to pursue the review, while 2 to 3 weeks will be given for them to review the submission. They can access the submission using their respective username and password provided by the journal. Then after the reviews have been made, the managing editor will integrate the comments and suggestions made by the reviewers. Usually, the editorial decision can be one of the following. It can either be accept, major revision, minor revision, or rejected. It will now be up to the authors to either rebut or provide details of the revisions, as they will be asked to provide a two-column table of revisions indicating the changes they made. Afterwards, it will be forwarded again to the reviewers to assess the revisions or changes made by the authors. If the reviewers have further revisions or suggestions, a second review round will be made. While if the authors accepted the current submission, it will now be accepted, and a notification will be sent to the authors accepting their submission. Then the submission will be forwarded to the manuscript editor to do copy editing. Then it will be forwarded to the layout editor in order to make the galley proof. Once the galley proof has been made, it will be sent to the author for approval. Once the galley proof has been approved by the author, the managing editor will assign the DOI in the manuscript and will be uploaded on the website. So that typically is the review process or submission process of the journal. One of the most common problems is that the authors think that once they submit their manuscript, the decision will be out instantly. But in reality, it is not, because it still depends on the reviewers as to how long they can finish the review. Fortunately, for the Journal of Health and Caring Sciences, our reviewers are very accommodating and usually finish their review within the allotted time. Another problem I frequently encounter is that when authors submit their manuscript, they do not conform to the guidelines set by the journal, resulting in the manuscript being sent back to them, prolonging now the review process. My advice would be to read the author guidelines as well as the aims and scope of the journal, because the paper can be rejected not because of its quality, but because of not conforming to the aims and scope of the journal. My advice for them would be to present and publish their research, because their research will remain a piece of paper unless they disseminate and publish it. They should make an impact to the nursing profession. If in case their paper has been rejected in a journal, do not lose hope. Take it as an opportunity to improve their research and resubmit to another journal. The most important thing, again, is to read the author guidelines and know the citation and formatting style of the journal where they want to publish. Because some of the journals use the APA style, some use the Harvard style, and some use the Vancouver style. So please familiarize yourself with the author guidelines, which is one of the keys to successful submission. Now, one of the new requirements being imposed by different graduate schools of nursing in the Philippines is the successful publication of their research. However, a graduate student should exercise caution, as many predatory journals offer expedited publications but charge exorbitant fees. That is what we are avoiding. If they are unsure if the journal where they intend to publish is predatory or not, they should look at the Bill's list of predatory journals and publishers. In connection with the publication imposed by nursing schools, one of the issues that I recently encountered is the authorship criteria. One graduate student asked me if she needs to include her advisor as a co-author in her paper, since her classmates included his advisor. Must she do the same? I told her that if your advisor met all the 4 authorship criteria, set by the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, or ICMJE, that is, first, substantial contribution in the conception, interpretation, or analysis of the work. Second, involvement in drafting the work or revising it. Third, final approval of the version to be published. And lastly, agreement to be accountable for all aspects of work. Then, she can add her advisor as co-author. But if not, she can just be included in the acknowledgement section of the paper. That is one of the most commonly violated areas when we talk about ethics in publication, and should not be done in any way, because that is what we call gift authorship. Now, when it comes to choosing where to publish, they should ask someone they know, like their thesis advisors or their colleagues, regarding possible journals where their research can be published. Another thing is they can visit the website of Scopus, Web of Science, EBSCO, or ProQuest, so that they can search for reputable journals indexed in these databases. Once they find possible nursing journals, they should read the journal's aims and scope and determine if their research topic meets all the conditions set by the journal.
Well, that's all for today's episode of Pinoy RN. Thanks for listening, and thank you to our guest for joining me today. Join us again next time when we talk about Filipino nurses and nursing. Make sure you subscribe to the Pinoy RN podcast on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Also follow us on Facebook at Pinoy RN Podcast. Special thanks to our event partners, Beta Nu Delta Nursing Society, Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, Nursing for Humanity.